Growing up in Parker, Colorado, outside looking in, I had a very beautiful, normal life. But no one knew that it was just a facade covering up trauma and abuse, and without having a real relationship with a healing God, I learned to stuff everything down and suppress all the feelings of being tainted and unlovable and all the shame and the guilt and everything that happened early on in my childhood. No one knew that I was struggling the way that I was. I got to college and quickly realized that I could suppress and numb those feelings with alcohol, which then quickly turned into an addiction. And then that turned into a snowballing effect of any substance I could get my hands on. I couldn't stop. I wanted to stop, and I couldn't. I got to the point where I was a slave to the substances. My drug use took me to being a homeless junkie in about 2 years. I was staying in a bed-bug-infested, really sketchy motel in a very sketchy part of Colfax, and I prayed to God either save me or kill me. 3 minutes later, the SWAT team kicked in my door, and that was it.
Take me to the moment that you described where you're on the floor crying out to God. What's going on in your heart a little bit more? What are the thoughts? What's happening in that moment?
I wasn't sure who or what I was praying to. I wasn't sure that it was going to work. Living through that and thinking about it now, like, is a very clear representation of God's presence in my life. But at the time, I couldn't see it at that because I had resentment towards God for the things that had happened to me as a kid. I just remember being so broken and so lost and so done. I was done fighting. I was done running because I was running from everything in my life. I wasn't willing to face anything and take responsibility for my part. Being arrested was surprisingly the best thing that happened to me. When the police kicked in my door, I immediately felt relief. Like, I felt that 100-pound backpack that I'd been carrying my whole life with all the secrets and all the lies, like, I felt that lifted off. And went to jail, detoxed, cold turkey, which was
Brutal.
Unbelievable. Like, I didn't sleep for 2 weeks straight. Like, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. I asked the judge to send me to treatment, unbeknownst to me, but I picked a biblically based program.
Wow.
And I think, again, that was God working in my life. I had a terrifying drug habit that I just needed to get rid of. I didn't know that it was going to lead me to a beautiful, conscious relationship with God. It was in treatment, learning to pray, learning to connect, getting into the Word, getting into the gospel, going to church, really claiming that I wanted a relationship with Jesus. I just continued to see Him working in my life. I continued to see the promises, the experiences that I walked through. Like, I thought I was walking through them alone, but God was clearly there walking with me along the way.
There were things that were out of your control that had deep impact on you personally that led to kind of this dark place on the inside. But then there's also the part that you were responsible for, and that's the behaviors and all the stuff that became the way that you were kind of masking all of that, the way that you were numbing the pain that was on the inside. But what would you say to someone today that finds themselves either in one or the other or the collective kind of place of desperation? And there's likely people that are listening that at this stage of their life, they have no hope. What would you say to them today?
Don't give up hope. He is there. He is working. He is moving amongst us at all times. Pursue God like your life depended on it. Pursue the relationship, pursue the connection, all of the gifts, all of the promises. It's all a byproduct of a deep relationship with God. Without that one thing, everything else crumbles.
You can look back and see a lot of stuff you wish could have been different, but God used it in a powerful way. And without the redemptive work of God that gives us that fresh start in a new chapter, you could live with just a cloud over you of shame and regret. but that's not how you've chosen to live. Talk a little bit about this redemptive process. So the past is the past. God's going to use it today. What does that look like for you right now?
I had a lot of shame. A lot of shame for everything that I had done, everything that I had experienced. And it wasn't until knowing and seeing, like, it was all grace. Like, Jesus died on the cross for me. All of my sins, like everything that I had done, everything that I had been through, not like bits and pieces, but all of it. None of that was too big for God to handle. None of it was too messy. If he was there for me through all of that, he's there for you too.
Clearly, a lot of progress has been made since the dark days on Colfax, and today your life looks very different. Tell us a little bit about your life today.
Today, I get to show up both as a son of God, a son of Christ, but a son to my family, the family that I had burned the bridges, the family that put bars on the windows so that I couldn't break into the house. I now get to show up as a loving husband, a loving father. I get to show up in my community working with other addicts and alcoholics. I get to show up at work professionally. Like I have a career, I have purpose, and it's all a gift.
I just see those moments along the way where there's this rebirth in your heart, deeply meaningful, and to see the work of God kind of coming to fruition as you've continued to do your work and God's met you in doing your work. That's inspirational for all of us to know that God is able, that he's right there even when he doesn't seem like he is, that we're not going to look back in shame, but instead we're going to watch and experience and live in that redemptive work of God. That's what it's all about, bro.
Yeah.